not say that and
Right.
present at the same time. So, okay, and I am going to share my screen because I have, one second, because I have Paul and Judy's presentation. So, beginning, share screen. All righty then. All right, take it away.
Well, we want to go back to the live right now because Paul's going to give a presentation before we do the slideshow.
There we are.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go. All right. Sorry.
All right. That's okay. Thank you so much, Betsy, and your team there at Ohio Local History Alliance for putting this together. This is just fabulous. So it's definitely one of those overcoming obstacles things. I think it's pretty evident and all that stuff. I was just telling Judy, who would have thought we would be doing things like this on the computer. So that's definitely an obstacle sometimes, but it's a wonderful way for us to all still connect considering what we've gone through in the past year. So anyway, so I would just like to start by just introducing myself. My name is Paul Zuros. I'm the director here at Historic Fort Steuben. I've been here for a little less than a year now, actually, or 2 years, excuse me, a little less than 2 years. So it has been a wonderful experience for me. I came on after Judy sort of semi-retired, and so she's still with us. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to have Judy still a part of us and be able to guide me through a lot of what we do. Because as we're going to talk about, you know, working with the community, and it's our topic of our presentation here, is vital. And so I feel, and as Judy said when I first started, you know, it's because our organization is such a vital part of the community, it was a transition that needed to happen a little slowly as far as moving from one person to another person and growing that so the community felt comfortable with the new change at the fort. So that's really important to have too. So Judy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, Judy Bratten. I took over here at the fort back in 2004. And before then, it was all volunteer. And as you'll see as we go on, the Fort Steuben was a community-inspired project. Locals came together to raise money to rebuild the fort, and then over time it expanded. But the initial reason for doing it was not just to provide history, because we had a lot of teachers involved, but also as a spark for community development. We are unique because we are right downtown. How often do you have a historic fort in the downtown area? It is a downtown that was blighted, part of the Rust Belt. So we had a lot to overcome. There was a lot of people who thought, what do we want a fort down here for? So there was a lot of public relations had to be done to convince people that what we were doing was something that would be valuable for the whole community. After the fort was constructed and they had a grant to expand to Fort Steuben Park, and I'll talk about that later, and they built a visitor center. It's a beautiful visitor center, as you'll see. And that's when they realized they needed more than volunteers. So I was hired. I was first paid staff. And but until then, and even now, I would say 80% of the work that's done here is by volunteers. So a couple of years ago, when I realized it was getting too much for me, for one person, that's when the board decided we could hire a new director and I would kind of step back. But over the years, we've seen incredible change and development and acceptance and participation from the community.
And that's really so important for us here, because not only are we a historic site with the historic Fort Steuben aspect of it, with the visitor center, and as Judy will mention later, the expansion of Fort Steuben Park. It really has become, I don't want to call it I keep wanting to call it a community center, but it's not a community center. It's a center for the community to come down and, have this asset in downtown Steubenville. And as Judy mentioned, our location, I would feel like, is one of those great pros that we have going on. We're right downtown Steubenville, right across the street, just adjacent to the fort is the city office, the city center, the city building, the city offices, the police station, and catty corner from us we have the county courthouse as well. And we're in a great visible location. We've got a highway that goes down right in front of us, Route 7, and right across the river in West Virginia, we have the other highway, Route 2, that goes down, and we have a bridge literally right next to us that allows folks to come from that side of the river too. So we have a stellar location. So those are the pros, and I would say, with every pros, there's some cons. So the cons would be that we do have a major highway literally right next to us, and we also have a railroad track that has trains that go past every once in a while. But that really doesn't take away that much from it, but it's close by. We also have a water treatment plant that's also across the street from us. So when the wind is blowing, it's not real great, but usually that doesn't happen. And one of the biggest things I would say that has been an ongoing issue, not an issue, but something we've sort of had to overcome, is the fact that the reputation of downtown Steubenville was never, it hasn't been a great thing. What we've tried to do here at Fort Steuben, and what the board has tried to do over many years, is kind of change that perception of coming downtown Steubenville. It just never was a place that people wanted to be, especially after dark. Now, we have lots of programming that goes on here at the fort, into the evening, finishing maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. And we've never had any problems, thank goodness. And people do, because of the fort here and the revitalization that we were mentioning, that really, we've turned that tide. We always are turning that tide. And as Judy said, we were a center for revitalization. And now, based off of the fort, we believe that from all the programming that we've done over the years, other organizations have started to do things in the downtown. We have a great organization that does First Fridays on 4th in one of the streets just a block from us, and it's like a festival every Friday, and it's a beautiful thing. The Greek church does a Greek festival just a couple blocks from us, and so really the downtown is starting to come back, slowly, but it is. We're getting there, and really it all started with this place here at historic Fort Steuben. To work with your community is so important, and my background is I was a director of a historic house museum for many years in Charleston, West Virginia. And also I worked with the West Virginia Humanities Council to take care of their 1836 structure in Charleston also. And always at those sites, and I feel like for a lot of our sites, we're trying to find ways that we can engage the community to fit with our mission, of preserving, our history, which is, our key mission. But I would offer, and it will be in our conversation here, is how can we stay true to our mission, but also find ways to engage the community in things that maybe, we're trying to think outside of the box a little bit, and things that we allow to happen here at the fort. So as an example, one of those things that we do, we have the Steubenville Art Association. They come down and they set up a display here at the fort or at the visitor center. That doesn't fit in with our mission to preserve the 18th century fort that we have out there, right? So it's a way for us to become a center in the community, to allow things like that to happen at the visitor center.
I do want to add that once the visitor center was built, we had added to our mission. It was not just to promote the fort and the history, but also the culture and the cultural offerings of the area. So that one little addition allows us to do even more, like the Art Association, and as you'll see, music and other programming.
Yeah, so as we go through the presentation, I'm going to give a little bit about our history and some of the things that we do. And then Judy is going to go through a slideshow of some visuals about, our site and sort of what we do. And I know that I submitted a video for the site, for a site spotlight, which you'll see later, I think, and you'll get a good idea about our location here. So some of the earliest events that we started with, and Judy, of course, was so instrumental in all of these things, was the Fort Festival, getting that. I think we're in our 30th year.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
that was begun even before the fort was completed. And again, all volunteer.
Yes.
Volunteer,
Yeah.
right. But that got the people, they charge very little. And if you just charge $1, that gives you a sense, it's a value, but allows a lot of people to participate. So that got people aware of what we were doing.
And as Judy will show you in our slideshow, the fort really got started as a community effort. There had been many, if you look back at the history of the site, the fort was gone by 1790, we believe. So, it was completely gone. And Steubenville didn't get started till about 1797 or so, thereabouts. So the fort was gone before Steubenville even existed, but it grew up around where the fort was originally. So there had been many pushes to rebuild the fort through the years. In the 1870s, they were pushing for it. They installed these markers out on the site of the fort.
That was the centennial.
That was the centennial in 1897, and actually the community that built out of the history of the fort was the early German community, because of course we're named after a Prussian general during the Revolutionary War. So that Historic Fort Steuben actually began in its earliest as a center for this specific community, and then it grew up from that point. So the fort really got started, I think it was in 1986, when there was a couple of members, and Judy will show the slides, a couple of prominent members of our community attended a lecture by a gentleman from the University of Steubenville, now Franciscan University, and he was showing some archaeology and talking about the history about this site and about the importance of Fort Steuben in our state history and our local history. And really, these ladies got inspired to, what would it take to rebuild the fort? And so they came back and they spoke to their husbands about it, who were prominent members of the community, and they were just gung-ho about it. And that's really what started our organization as a grassroots organization, just an inspiration, just at that moment when the archaeologist was talking about, our importance here. That's when really the group got together and decided they wanted to do this. So I think the first buildings went up in like 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a building a year. And every year, and as you'll see, a lot of the building was done by volunteers too. And when we get to the slides, I'll show you that. But a lot of the members of the original board, called the committee, actually hands-on, laying brick, helping to get these buildings rebuilt.
Yeah. So and then they would also sell each picket for the palisade that goes around the fort. So any way that they could to engage the community, and it took them 20 years from 1989 to 2009 to finish what you see out there, the buildings out in the fort. And it's kind of funny because it took them about 8 months originally to build the fort, in the 18th century. It took us 20 years. So we always sort of poke fun at that. It's neat. But once we had that wonderful asset out there, again, as Judy said, we tried to find a way that we can, engage the community and changing our mission statement and getting that to allow other events to, other people to come down here from the community. Now, one of the earliest things also that Judy tells me that was done was engaging veterans to come down to the fort and coming down to the visitor center and doing women's history programming at the fort, which was really encouraging to start with that. We did a Black History Month program, quilt show, which is always a fun thing. And that's something, and a lot of these things we still do, obviously. The quilt show is one of the most fun, I think. It's really, we're ongoing with that right now.
One thing, we started the quilt show because as a military fort, we attracted a lot of men. But we wanted women to come in. We wanted to get that involvement. So the history of quilting is so much part of American history as well. So we started the quilt show, and that has been a great success every year. Brings a lot of people in from all over that might not go to visit a fort, but they come down for the quilt show, and then they're interested in more history. So it's again, you lure them in with one thing and they are attracted to the rest.
Right, absolutely. And that's one of those things, quilts, now we know historically there were no women at the fort when the Army was here, right? The first American regiment and the surveyors.
Right.
But this is something that we could do to, bring that group in, to have them be engaged in the fort, So right now, for instance, we're doing a Civil War exhibit in our exhibit hall. Now, of course, the fort was long gone by the time of the Civil War, but we felt that it would be, advantageous to us to have this exhibit here. And again, it brings people down, especially with the quilt show, he may not necessarily feel that they might be interested in the fort, but once you get them down here and get them engaged and they could see our facility, then it seems like they get super engaged in what goes on out there. And that's also, I would say, an important part of, like, the next thing I have here is bringing school groups down and getting the young people engaged in your historic site, because, ultimately, everything is great now, but in years to come, you want your site to be a value to the younger generation. You want them to, and everybody, but really, if you get the young group involved and the younger folks involved early and make your site a valuable and irreplaceable part in the community, a part of the community that they grow up with, to have the fort here and to come down and do school groups here, that makes it relevant to their life too, as well, which I think is vitally important. Now, and as Judy alluded to as we went through this, most of the events that we do here, we charge very little for visitors to come down, if anything at all. Our Fort Festival, we do have an admission charge, but for the quilt show, the Civil War exhibit, and all those sorts of things, the women's history, those things, we don't necessarily charge an admission unless you're going into the fort. So that has been helpful because we want it to be accessible, I think, to everyone that comes down. And it's okay not to make money on certain things, right?
Well,
right.
Our donation boxes are distributed throughout.
Yes.
And people can be very generous. So,
right.
So we do receive that kind of input.
Right. So as we were presenting these programs, and especially with like veterans and some of the city folks across the street, they started asking us, can we do events down at the fort? Can we do our Veterans Memorial program down at the space? Can we have our POW memorials down there? Can we do a police police memorial program?
Yeah, it's a police memorial
event here at the fort. And again, that doesn't fit with our mission as preserving history, but we said yes, absolutely. Bring your program down here. We're happy to do it. We've got a great location just behind our visitor center that is a flagpole veterans park we've got back there, and it's a wonderful location to do these sorts of things. And that sort of brings in that community aspect that you might not get the police organization down here to do. So that was important for us to have. And of course, Memorial Day programs we've had in the park, and they're beautiful, beautiful programs. And again, it brings people down here, to visit. Now, one of the things that we've done recently, which has been pretty successful, is allowing the city's 4th of July event to happen at historic Fort Steuben Park. Now, our park is pretty big. We've got the fort, of course, but we also have a whole city block, which is another helpful aspect. And most of it is open green space. And and because of our advantage over the river, we've got a great place for the city to set up fireworks, for them to have fireworks set up. And in 2019, of course, 2020 was a little different, but in 2019, we probably had, I think, maybe 5,000 people here at our park. and we have vendors set up down here. It's really a city thing. That's a city event with the mayor. That's his thing, but of course we help since it's at our location. So we have vendors out front. We've got folks selling like light up toys and things like that out in the fort, and it's kind of fun. Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And so that has drawn a lot of interest in the fort. So it's vitally important to allow those sorts of events to go on, but also having a good board of directors. And I feel like we always say this, but it's so important to have a good board of directors in your organization to help you along the way. For instance, in our board, we have he's the vice president of the TV.
Yeah. The local TV station.
Yeah, our local TV station, yes. So he's on our board. In years past, we've had the editor of the newspaper on our board, city representatives, school representatives, county. We're very good to have 2 universities in our town, Eastern Gateway Community College and of course Franciscan University. You know, if you have representation of those folks on your board, that is just absolutely vital. And
local, one of the teachers from the local school, we've had librarian, you know, people in other aspects of the community that can give us insights on ways we can continue to reach out to the community.
Right, and not only that, but to also use their contacts and reach out to their group to get people in here. And of course, having the vice president of the TV station really helps, because anything that we do here, we just call him and he's able to send a crew down, and you know, we're able to promote whatever it is we're doing here at the fort. And so much so that our board president here at Fort Steuben decided that he was going to run for mayor, and he was elected. So it's a really cool thing. It's a wonderful opportunity to have the mayor of your city as the board president. So that has definitely helped. And so we have a pretty good working relationship with the city government. It's not always great, but we've you know, it's good to have that. And you know, as we grew and as the property grew and as our organization grew, we had the opportunity to add the Convention and Visitors Bureau onto our organization.
There was if you recall back when everybody had budget cuts, and they cut the budget for the city cut the amount of money going to our local CVB, and they couldn't continue to operate, so they disbanded. And then we were asked to take, since we were already doing a lot of that kind of publicity, we were asked to take over that responsibility. And so we did hire another part-time person, and we were getting the bed tax. And so we continue, so we are also the Steubenville Visitor Center. And it's a separate budget and separate programming, but it's all under the umbrella of our board of directors. I report to the city council a couple of times a year. And so that has helped us immensely with budgeting. We have extra money for advertising that as the fort we weren't able to do before. So now we try to promote everything in the county, particularly everything in the city. So that's been an asset for us.
And it's another thing where we're, you know, again, a center in the community where people come down and let us know what is going on, you know, in the county, in the community, and we're able to promote those things and put them out. So it's another way that we're really that center. And adding the visitor center, we were able to add, well, of course, we had to add some other things that we do with the visitor center, not just advertising, but the farmers market. We do a farmers market every Thursday in the summer, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's lots of fun to do. You know, we promote area events. We do the Christmas parade in Steubenville, which was a visitor center thing, and the Dean Martin Festival, the hometown celebration. We've been doing that for many years, and hopefully we'll be able to do it this year. And we also have been able to provide grants to other organizations, which we've done over the years. You in town for other revitalization aspects. One that we're really excited about is the Grand Theater, which is an old theater in town that needs some work. So they're trying to revitalize it and restore it so they can use it as another community center. So we're happy to be a part of that too as well. And with those additions, we also had the addition of the Ohio River Scenic Byway. And Judy knows all about that.
Yeah, that was actually, it was the Ohio River Scenic Byway was looking for a visitor center, and this was way back. So the directors at the time, board of directors, applied for a grant and had a design worked up for this block. So all the development beyond the fort, the visitor center, Fort Steuben Park, the amphitheater, no, not the amphitheater, the fountain, that was all came from the Federal Highway Administration as part of the Ohio River Scenic Byway. We're a national scenic byway. And we have a separate board, that's totally separate. We're members of it. And we serve as their main visitor center for the Ohio portion of the byway.
Yes. And another thing that we're excited about, and I know a lot of folks probably are aware of this, is the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, which was expanded for the Eastern Legacy all the way up to Pittsburgh along the Ohio River. And so we're a partner site with the National Park Service as well, the Visitor Center is. And that has been a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. And that opens us up to different grants and different things that we can apply for as well.
And don't forget the park passport.
The park passport, yes. If any of you are familiar with the National Park Service's cancellation stamp passport program, Judy, I remember one of the first days I started here, Judy said, there's this passport stamp, should we get it? And I said, absolutely, because I had worked in the National Park Service years ago, and that was one of the two questions that visitors would ask when they came into the visitor center. Of course, number one, where's your restroom? Second is, where's the passport stamp? So I said, absolutely, we have to have that. And we did get it, so
yes.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And so, with the addition of the visitor center, we've got this great space here. It's a beautiful facility. We've got an exhibit hall where we can do those other exhibits. We have a museum shop, which started, and our trolley that we send out. Those are some of the other things that we could offer for the community. Now, with the addition of the visitor center and the park, we've got a beautiful fountain, another center for folks to come down and enjoy at the park. It's an absolutely gorgeous fountain, and we sell bricks around the fountain for the community. And that has been a pretty good moneymaker and a good way for folks to memorialize people in the community. Another thing that was added, so it's kind of hard to explain, but we have a land office park. There was a land office park in our block that was a separate organization that when that organization got a little older, they decided to give it over to the fort. They offered it to the fort. So not only with the park, the Fort Steuben Park that we manage, and the historic fort, and the fountain, and I'll tell you about the amphitheater in just a minute. We also have the land office park. So it's a fenced-in area, and it's another asset. It's another part of the story of historic Fort Steuben and the surveying and all that stuff. But the amphitheater really has been such a great spark in our community. The amphitheater was built, I think, in 2006. They started it in 2006. Mm-hmm. And we started with our inaugural concert series. Every Thursday night in the summer at the fort, we have a concert series, and it lasts from May to the end of July. It is a wonderful thing. And so we have, we don't make hardly any money on this at all. And it's really just a gift to the community. We do solicit for sponsorship in the community. And when we receive those funds, we're able to book concerts at the amphitheater. And it's a beautiful venue. It's absolutely just
and the concerts have been crucial for changing that image of downtown. People were wondering whether they'd come to a concert at night in downtown Steubenville. Right. And people started coming. They realized it was safe. And it's changed. That was probably the first way they changed that whole image of safety in the downtown. We are really, really grateful to see this change, so that people aren't afraid to come down at night. We've also expanded a lot of the lighting, because that's always important. If you're going to have any night events, lighting is crucial, especially not just at the site, but towards the parking lot also, where parking is. So as we've seen that, and as we've moved to improve lighting, we see more things happening downtown at night.
And so again, and then of course, recently within the last 6 years, we've done a Nutcracker Village and Advent Market at the Fort, and that has been an enormous success that we've had at the Fort. I mean, we have about 183, not we, but we with another community organization.
Well, actually,
it's a business. Right.
It's a business. So
Right.
You have a business and a private business and a private nonprofit working together.
Right. Because of the success that we've had at the Fort, we were able to come together and create this event, and we have 183 life-size nutcrackers that are spread out through Fort Steuben Park and also the community too, as well.
The downtown.
And the downtown community, and it has been a wonderful thing. And now, full-size, life-size nutcrackers. You could say, well, what does that have to do with the Fort? Again, it's not much other than it goes to support the Fort, right?
Yes,
It
yes.
supports that. So I would say, what's important in working with your community, and what's important with working with your city government and other nonprofits and other businesses, engage them. Try to find ways that you can connect with them, to allow them to do events down here, to work with them, because as you work with them, again, your site becomes it's bigger than a historic site, right? You're building your repertoire of events and different things that you're doing, and if you're able to do that, again, you become an irreplaceable part in the community. I mean, truly.
I think we ought to do the slideshow before it gets too late.
Yes.
So Betsy, if you want to start the slides.
I was just about to mention we have about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so this is the original committee. These were professors, they were secretaries, the wife of our local representative, teachers. These were the people that raised the money, got the publicity, got the contacts. I think they actually did get a state grant at one point, because somebody was married to a state rep. So these are the people that started. Okay. And again, as I said, the people in the board actually worked hands-on. And they worked we had volunteers from the local carpenters union, the electrical union. So we had all these people involved right from the start. We had the JVS, the local vocational school students working here. And even today, some of them come in and say, I remember when I helped build, Blockhouse 2. So again, getting the schools involved. Okay. The archaeology dig, which was the inspiration for it all, was started early before the fort was built, and still continues. Okay. And that's a more recent picture. This is the school groups coming. The school groups coming into the different buildings. Our volunteers, some of them dress for the occasion. That's Frontier Dan, and he does a great job. Okay. And again, I will stop here. Okay. The fort was originally built to protect the surveyors of the Northwest Territory. As a result, the professional land surveyors of Ohio took an interest right from the start, and they have worked with us all through the last 30 years. And here's one of these surveyors teaching the old-fashioned surveying method to some of our students that come for our summer program. And we have one of the blockhouses is set aside. We are in the process of developing a surveyor's museum. And from the University of Akron, they have a surveying program, and a lot of their people are helping us develop this exhibit. So that's, again, expanding what we do. Okay. This is our visitor center. This came as a result of funding for this Ohio River Scenic Byway. As you can see, the bridge in the background there, that's the bridge that crosses the Ohio River going over to West Virginia. We have a spectacular view of the river from this visitor center. And we have a lot of opportunities as a result, because we have information about all the other towns and attractions that go along the Ohio River. Okay, next. And that's our fountain. As you can see, the fountain is a wonderful location. That's our county courthouse. And this has become a gathering place. This is an older picture, because since then we've expanded, we've put more flagpoles around. But this is, as you can see, the bricks. And the next slide, these are the bricks that we sell that helps cover the cost of the fountain. Just to give you a heads up, fountains are very expensive to run. This is how we've added to that fountain area. So it's made it attractive for people to come down at lunchtime. This was before everybody started working from home. And we have food vendors that would come down as well. Okay. And it is a community site, and we have many, many, many weddings either get photographed at the fountain, or people are married by the mayor at the fountain. Next. And that's the amphitheater. As you can see, you may not be able to see the river back there, but in your seating, when you're seated, you can see the river. We can seat about 250 people, but we've had as many as 1,000 people sitting in the grass all around. Next. This is a couple of photos from our annual festival. Again, right in the middle of downtown, we have all these people dressed up in funny clothes and with activities for the kids to do, which is a wonderful way to make history come alive. Next. Festival again. And our Native Americans, we do have a Native American exhibit, and we always have, when we have our festival, we have the soldiers inside the fort, and the Native American reenactors are outside the fort, which is where they should, the way it was. And they add another dimension to our history. And we do have a permanent exhibit inside our exhibit hall on Native Americans from the area. Next. Festival. Next. This is the trolley, and this is the Steubenville Hometown Celebration at one of the festivals we help encourage. People can come from all over. Actually, there aren't that many people that are such fans of Dean Martin, but when it was first going, we had people coming from Denmark, from England, from all over the country. It was a wonderful. We were very glad to be able to support that
Part
project.
of our history,
Yeah, car shows. That was part. We have car shows a number of times. Part of the hometown celebration is a car show, and that's a wonderful way again to bring people down to your site. Next. This is the 1801 land office. When we took it over, we furnished it to make it look like what we call a 19th century home office, which is what it was, because the registrar lived here, took land records. That's another organization that's very involved. is the Genealogy Society. Since the land office was where people got their original deeds, people come from all over the country tracking back their ancestors. And I often say that Steubenville in Ohio is the Ellis Island for the rest of the country, because people came through Ohio before they moved up further west. So we have people coming back to do their genealogy, and the land office is a wonderful resource. Next. This is the flagpole area behind the fort near the amphitheater by the river. It was developed as an Eagle Scout project. And this is where a lot of ceremonies take place. Next. And as Paul mentioned, the Lewis and Clark expedition, we were part of the Eastern Legacy, and just 2 years ago, they expanded it to be part of the whole National Trail. Next. And there we have our signage. We work with the county commissioners, and we were able to get our bicentennial bell placed on the property, which is another, as you know, I think every county in Ohio got a bicentennial bell. So this is another attraction. Next. Concerts. As you can see, our seating is filled up and people are all over. This was a wonderful way to bring the downtown to life. And notice we have a lot of nursing homes bring their people down. And that is just so heartwarming to me. I worked at a nursing home for a number of years, and I'm so glad to see these people have a place to go. They don't have to pay anything, and have a wonderful time to socialize and get live performances. The other thing I'll mention about the concerts is we are downtown. We have a significant lower income population downtown, and these people can walk here and have live entertainment. And it's a wonderful, I'm just so thankful that we can offer that to people who might never have an opportunity to do it. We've had anywhere from the Army Band, next, to the Beatles. So as you can see, we have something for everybody. We have wonderful jazz, blues, and we even include a car show. Okay, next. We work with a group called Youth Works. They go around the country and do volunteers things. They come to Steubenville a lot. They often work on other projects, but sometimes they help us too, and then we give them tours of the fort. Next. Black History Month. We had school kids come in. I'll tell a quick story here. This is we worked right from the beginning with the African-American community. These two gentlemen here were veterans from Vietnam, and they came and shared some of their experiences with the students who came from the school. And one of the students asked, did you ever have to kill anybody? And the men broke down crying. Very moving time. And obviously their words were going to have an impact on those children. Next. Quilt show. As I mentioned, this brought the women. Next is some more quilt show. And next, the military, we put up military flagpoles all around the fountain and had a special ceremony from all the branches of military. And they still come around for special events. Next. This is the police memorial. This is the next, that's okay. Next, Vietnam Veteran Memorial Service. This was a special event. Whoops. Back one. Yeah. This was a special event. Edwin Stanton, Lincoln's Secretary of War, was from Steubenville. There's a big statue here. We had the statue, we worked with other groups to have the statue refurbished. These are descendants of Stanton. We came and had a birthday party. And they came from Michigan and other parts of Ohio. And we had a birthday party for Edwin Stanton. Next. Farmers market that we operate now in the summertime. Next. We work with the DAR and the SAR. We have Constitution Week every year where we put up, we have a big exhibit. Kids can come and sign the Constitution. We have audio visuals going on, but that's been something we work together. This is the Art Association exhibit. They have their workshops here as well as their meetings, and we love to have their art on display. Next.
So Judy, we are at a point where we have about 2 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you if you have special pictures that you would like, and we are on slide 46 of 60. So
Yes.
Is there anything in particular you'd like to show us?
I think you can just slip through them real fast.
Okay.
Volunteers, our museum shop, and the Nutcrackers.
Wow.
4th of July, and that's our peaceful fort with the herb garden. And thank you for letting us share all this with you.
Oh, yes. And I would just say, in conclusion, with everything that you've seen here, we're bigger than the fort itself. And I think that is key for any organization, because if you add those other things, if you think outside the box, hopefully that'll open the door to your organization becoming a center in the community.
And the collaboration is crucial.
Absolutely.
And again, the wonderful volunteers we have, many skilled and interested volunteers. So we're very blessed.
Right.
Okay, questions.
Yeah, it doesn't even have questions. So we did have questions come up in the chat, and some of them were answered in the chat explicitly. Someone had asked how an organization got on the National Park Service Passport Program, and Jenny from the National First Ladies Library in Canton was able to answer that. So that was the great thing about the chat is that you can have side conversations without actually disturbing the presenters, as you would in a face-to-face meeting, right? Let's see. I'm trying to go through and see if there were questions still in the chat that are not answered. Early on, Andy wanted to know, Judy, so when you were hired as a paid director, what could you do as paid staff that volunteers couldn't or didn't want to do? And so what's the benefit of paid staff?
Okay, we lost. There we go. Okay. Well, first of all, bookkeeping, paying bills, and just being there all the time. It's a 9 to 5 and sometimes 7-day-a-week job, and I was definitely going to be there. I wasn't going to take time off to go visit my grandchildren. So that was probably the most important thing. We were able to have regular hours. We knew we would be open on certain days. And then I think that was probably, and then putting together programs that were cohesive. That all fit together. Because when you have a volunteer, sometimes they'll focus on just one thing. So I was able to be to watch over everything, keep it all together. Any others?
I'm good. So I see that your network bandwidth is going weird on us, and I don't have any further questions. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much for coming and presenting. And we will see you in person in 2023. So I think it was.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So we are at our break point. Bailey, you can go ahead and stop recording.